And so my pathway sort of started in general forensic psychology and then branched to become more specialized, especially within my private practice, into the sex offender world.
Okay, that's interesting. And do you think there's more demand for people to be working in that field because there is such a stigma around it? I remember years ago I read an article, I believe it was in the New York Times, about pedophiles and sexual offenders, and how there's a real issue because obviously it's so stigmatized because what they do when they offend is so horrific, but also that some of them just have this, I guess, mental predisposition for desire to do these things, and they feel afflicted as well. And so I think the article was kind of saying, like, if we can identify and try to help these people, then we're going to have less offenses. But as we identify them, they're immediately vilified, so then there's less incentive for them to allow themselves to be identified. Like, I don't know if I'm remembering that correctly, but...
Well, you are, and it's a giant problem. I mean, that's one of the things that kind of interests me about that field, is that, you know, the public outcry for anyone even accused of a sexual offense is so dramatic, like string them up, hang them, you know, right, that kind of thing, that you actually drive these people into hiding and make it more likely that they're going to offend. So from the front end, people that have those predilections towards that aren't going to come out and seek help because they don't want to be vilified. And from the back end of things, after you're treated, where do you end up living? Because the media is happy to post that a sex offender's moved into a neighborhood or something like that. And so it makes it very difficult for them to maintain normal vocational and social relationships.
Right, and the more I imagine the more you separate them from society, the more isolation kicks in, and the more they will maybe, you know, go on dark web sort of chat groups where the only place where they can find camaraderie. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, because in the last 20 years, there's been a movement within the treatment of people with sexual offenses towards something called the good lives model. And that's recognizing that to treat someone effectively, you don't just treat the actual risk stuff, you actually need to create for them a better lifestyle. So that includes better social relationships, you know, right, more things connecting them to their society and to their world. And when they get that label, sometimes that's hard to do. But that's a more effective treatment approach than to, for example, punish someone for their sexual interests.
Right. That's super interesting. I don't want to belabor the point, because that whole area is fascinating as well.